Hey, Pickleballers, and welcome to another episode of the Pickle Bros podcast. And already having technical issues. That's just how we do it here. Thanks for all your comments, likes, and subscriptions. Sorry we're a little bit late this week. And as you will see, we're a man down. We don't have Tim this week. Sometimes life just gets in the way, but he will be on the podcast Wednesday. We have a great topic, and we're very excited for it. So today, we're going to be talking about a really good episode, improving your on-court performance with off-court effort. So this is, for some people, this may not be as interesting, may not ring as true, but I know there's going to be a lot of you out there who haven't thought about this topic, and we really hope to catalyze that to improve your on-court performance. But before we get into it, as always, we have to go through what's your beef. Who wants to kick it off this week? Stolp, you always finish.
Dude, you know I got beef. So I've been playing back from after the surgery now for 2 weeks. The first week was just once, and now I've been back on the courts pretty regular, and it's great to be back. But gosh, did it reignite some beefs. So I actually took some notes because there's so many examples of my beef. I cannot stand when people call the score some funky derivative of what it actually should be. If it's 002, say 002. If it's 1111, say it's 1111. Here's the things that you shouldn't say when you're calling the score. And don't make jokes of it either, you fools. I'm a joker myself, but don't say it's the 2-for-1 special when it's 2-for-1. Like, let's not be calling it that, okay? So don't be saying 2-for-1. Don't call when it's 001. Don't say 001. When it's 111, don't say sticks. When it's 11s, don't say ones. When it's 15 to 14 and you're in some heated battle, don't say 5 to 4. Say 15-14, call the serve. I need to know that. And Ian, you know, I lose track of the score so easy. I'm like, where do I go?
Dude, you're so funny. You're like the highest level player who doesn't know what the score is at any time. It's totally so funny to me.
I lock in on each individual point, so it matters to me when people call it. Don't be a whisperer. Don't be the 102. Like, just say it loud so I can hear it. Don't be the person who only says the score and not the server. So like 5-4 or 6-4. No. I really need to hear the server. Or I need to know that. And then the worst of all worst are the people that don't announce it. And maybe because it's so you're up so big or you're so down, you don't announce the score. Oh, that grinds my gears, and that's my beef. Call the score, say the numbers, say the server, move on. Then joke around. I'm cool with that, but don't make jokes to the score, people. Let's go.
Oh my gosh,
that is prime beef. Prime beef.
And that's why we always make you go last, because your beefs are just the best, dude. Jesse, what's your beef?
Okay, my beef. This is going to be kind of a lengthy one. I apologize for the length. And it's also it's a sort of old beef, like seasoned beef. It's been around for a while, but it's been bothering me. So I need to set a little context. This pertains to a tournament that I played in March. It was the Southwest USA Pickleball Regional Championships in the Phoenix area. And I played mixed doubles with my wife. And this is a USA Pickleball sanctioned tournament. Every game was refereed. It's not your local yokel. It's not your rec play. So everybody was taking it seriously, and everybody was expected to abide by the rules. Well, we were playing in this match, and the ref had some trouble with the rules, and at one point I had to call in the head ref, who overruled this ref and sided with me. So that's all context. So we were receiving, my wife and I, and it actually has to do with Stolp's beef. The score was called by the ref, but before she finished, because you're supposed to wait, right? You're supposed to wait. Before she finished reading the score, our opponent served the ball. And that's a fault, at least so I thought. So I caught the ball, and I said, that's a service fault. You served before the score was completely read. And the referee, who, remember, earlier had already misunderstood the rules, said, no, it's not a service fault because I stuttered, and so it was the referee's fault, I'm not calling a service fault. We'll do it again. And once again, I called in the head ref. And the head ref said, she says she stuttered, and he referred to a referee manual, and he said that the manual gave the ref discretion in cases like this, and so he was siding with her. Now, first of all, I didn't hear any stutter, and I had it on video, and I offered to show the video to the head ref, and he said, no, I'm not getting into that. So I don't know where she came up with that, but I was kind of shocked because I had never heard of a stuttering exception to this rule. Like, I thought the rule was clear. But anyway, she ruled, the head ref ruled against us, and we played out the point and played out the game. That's not my beef. I'm getting to my beef. So my beef is, later that night I was sitting in my VRBO, and I was like, what was this referee manual that the head ref referred to? I had never heard of it. I had never heard of a stuttering exception to this rule. So I went on one of my favorite websites, Reddit, and I went on the Pickleball subreddit, and I explained the whole setup and asked about this referee manual. So I had a question. I was hoping for an answer to that question. But rather than answer my question, all of these Reddit people started talking about how insufferable I am and how I'm an asshole because I shouldn't have caught the ball, I shouldn't have called a service fault, I shouldn't have challenged the ref, and I shouldn't have called in the head ref. And they were like, that's a cheap way to get a point. And then finally somebody actually answered my question, and they said, yeah, there is a referee manual, and the head ref was right to rule against you. By the way, you're insufferable. That's my beef, because I've been called for serving before the score was completely read, and so has my wife. And so I'm basically just saying, look, these rules have been used to the benefit of my opponents. In this case, I would like it to be used to my benefit. Like, I want the same standard for everyone.
Right, yeah.
So I'm sorry, maybe most of our listeners think I'm insufferable too, but yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable. Yeah, I want to hear what people think. If I'm being like absurd, I try to be a good sport, but if somebody breaks the rule, I want them to be faulted for it. So
for sure. Can we please respond to that? First of all, the person who served before the rep, that's the exact person I'm talking about. I guarantee you, they're saying 2-for-1 special, and they're the jokers that are there joking around during the serve. And then the second thing is, how many times on this show have we said haters gonna hate, man? Like, and the internet is the ultimate haters. Like, we go looking for answers to trusted sources, and unfortunately the internet can be that sometimes, but most of the times it's just these, I'll say, insufferable haters. You're not the insufferable one. It's the haters out there that are the worst, and the trolls. So I had to respond.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing that's good about that story is the proper identification of your insufferability, Jesse. But I don't know why you'd go to Reddit and maybe not a Facebook forum, but that's just internet for you, man. Like, people are gonna find a way to be angry and bring their outside life in, which, by the way, is my beef. My beef is life. When people bring their outside life, their personal stuff, which we all have, onto the court and let that affect gameplay, right? Not being able to compartmentalize your life, and you're bringing your issues in. We were playing last week with some friends of the podcast, and one of the guys who I just met, really like him, good player, tons of fun, like very high energy, intense person, but I really enjoy him. And he really struggled to play, and he was playing bad and then worse. And we kind of, a brief conversation. I was like, are you okay? Is it the altitude? Because they came up from sea level. And he shared that just life, outside life, was heavy on him that day, and it was affecting his on-court play. And he kept apologizing to me. He's like, Ian, I'm sorry, I'm not normally this bad. It's just I've got other stuff going on. I was like, you're good, bro. I understand. And I even relate to it, right? Like, if my daughters are sick or my wife and I are beefing, like, it's really hard to keep those things off the court. But and this isn't even really a negative, angry beef. It's just, it's disappointing when you know that outside life is affecting your pickleball play. Because for me, pickleball is a bit of like a sanctuary. It's a stress reliever. It's a reset. It's a place I can go and not worry about anything and just focus on the game and have fun with my guys. Um, and last week it invaded in a big way in a guy who I really enjoyed and cared about, and I could see how it affected his play. And I've been there as well. So my beef is just our inability to sometimes compartmentalize and let life get in the way of pickleball.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah,
I know. Bring
very
in the
deep.
depth.
Deep
Bring in the
beef.
yeah. Just remember, my beef is with life. All right. So we're gonna get into the topic, guys. It's exercise, diet, recovery, doing things right off court to improve your on court performance and become a better pickleball player. And the first thing to talk about is, why is nutrition and working out important? Why can't we just play pickleball? Jesse, I'll pass it over to you to start.
Because your strength and conditioning off the court can improve your pickleball performance. Now, I'm not making the argument that the person with the best diet and the best exercise routine always wins in pickleball. Like if Ben Johns switched to a diet of Coca-Cola and pizzas and put on 30 pounds, I'm pretty sure he'd still be able to beat us. Okay, regardless of how clean I eat or how much I work out. So his innate talent will overcome whatever bad diet he has. What I'm arguing is that if you are overweight, or if you are eating poor diet, or if you are not working out at all, then there's an opportunity there to improve your pickleball game by getting those off-court aspects of your life in better shape.
Mm-hmm. Stop. What do you think?
Yeah, when you said that, it reminded me like pickleball is a pharmaceutical drug, and it's like side effects may include happier life and you're way better for it, and et cetera, et cetera. But when you start reading the fine print, nothing outdoes diet and exercising. That's going to make you healthier, live longer, et cetera, et cetera. So I think pickleball, as great as it is, I mean, we have a podcast, we talk about it 24/7. We are about as addicted as it comes to pickleball. But truthfully, from an exercise standpoint, it's not enough to live a healthy lifestyle. It's part of a healthy lifestyle. And so I think supplementing it with diet and exercise is going to yes, make you a better pickleball player, but B, make you better overall in life and extend the longevity, hopefully, of your life, and then also prevent you from injury. So staying off of the pickleball court. I think a big thing for me is, some of the preventative work that goes into pickleball is done off of the court through diet and exercise. And so we'll get into that a little bit with what I find important areas of muscle groups to focus on. But staying on the court is the most important, and can't do that if you're hurt. So doing things off the court to make sure you're healthy is critical.
That's awesome, and that moves right in. Again, this isn't the most controversial topic we've ever discussed, but I do hope we frame things in ways that people can think about this issue differently and even start to care about it. Because for me, Stolp, you're talking about staying on the court. Recovery is the biggest reason why I care about my nutrition. And to let our listeners know a little bit about me, I have some health stuff in my past that's pretty significant. I had ulcerative colitis. I have a couple autoimmune disorders, and I've had a couple surgeries. I no longer have a large intestine or a rectum. It's called a protocolectomy. And then I had a J pouch created. There's probably 2 listeners who know what I'm talking about, or have a family member, or maybe themselves
They're
are.
probably doctors.
Yeah, right, exactly. So they'll know what I'm talking about. So I only have a small intestine anymore. My stomach, actually, I'm giving you a run for your money, Stolp, on Epic Scars. He's seen them. They're pretty. I'm not going to show them on the podcast because it looks like I laid on a grenade. But I'm kind of setting all this up. I've got some nutrition issues and hydration issues, having a lot of my digestive tract removed. And so for me, if I'm not eating right, If I'm not getting my electrolytes, I use LMNT. It's one of these potassium, magnesium, sodium supports in water. If I'm not doing that stuff, I'll play for 2 hours and I'll absolutely be trashed. My body, the vessel God gave me is already a little compromised and broken. And if I don't take care of it, it really impacts my gameplay. Jesse and I joke, he and I have the same load management. Just because I can't play like you, Stolp. You play 5 days a week at 5 a.m. I could do that for 2 weeks, and I would not be able to walk in week 3. And I've tried to do runs like that, compete with you in terms of volume. And by the second week, I'm playing some of the worst pickleball I've ever played, just because I have to recover. And so much of this comes with hydration, nutrition, and recovery. And also another out to just normalize this to our listeners, I am a steroid user. All the bros know this. When they took out my large intestine, a lot of male hormones are developed in your large intestine, and so my testosterone was terrible. Um, I was having symptoms of low testosterone. Went to the doctor, did blood work, and they're like, "Oh, you're in the optimal range. You're fine." I'm like, "I don't think I'm fine. What's my actual number?" And most men range from 300 to 1200 with testosterone. I was at 303. So yes, I was showing up in the optimal range, but I was not doing good. So my wife gives me 5 shots a week. I'm on TRT, testosterone replacement treatment, or therapy. And the reason I share that, by the way, is so that people can just think of the broad encompassment of their health, their diet, their exercise, or your hormones. You really can do things off the court that will make you a better pickleball player, that will drastically improve your performance on the court. So I love that intro, guys. We kind of know the things we care about, where we're hitting from. But what do you think is more important, diet or exercise? Stol, why don't you go ahead here?
Diet. Yep. I mean, I think in the ranking order of importance of things, um, in this is in general, pickleball aside or included, diet is going to extend the longevity of things for you. If you have a if you're eating where your energy levels are lower, you're going to be more tired. You're going to be doing things that just will not allow you to do the things you love. And I think I've noticed this. You talk about surgeries, Ian, and recovery and all these things. So when I went through the past, 12 weeks, I'm still on this recovery journey. The first thing that they were addressing or talking about was diet. Was, hey, make sure you're eating clean. We went on they focused on the Mediterranean diet, which is a really useful and practical thing that everybody can apply. And even for my blockhead understanding of diet, it's basically, eating lean meats and vegetables, but also when you're eating things outside of one ingredient, if you're going to buy something from the bag or whatever, have it be something with 5 ingredients or less. And all those ingredients you can read and understand. It's a really simple thing, right? Like if you know what's going in, you kind of know the output going out. But you talk about surgery. So I was on this diet for 2-3 months, or yeah, a couple months leading up to the surgery. And then since in recovery, energy levels are great, feeling good. And recovery time is quicker. I think when you break down your diet and you're eating crummy, it's just you're not giving yourself a chance to recover. So we might touch a little bit more on that, but for me, I like to keep it simple, and diet is more important to me than exercise. And this is coming from someone, by the way, who was essentially paid to be in the weight room or working out through professional baseball. Now, as a pitcher, it wasn't like I was, entering weightlifting competitions. It was, I'm doing exercises to keep my shoulder strength and core strong so that I could remain healthy over a 162 game season. But I prioritize diet personally over exercise, and I've just seen that and lived that over the past 12 weeks and before surgery with the liver transplant. So that'd be my response.
I love that you can come straight off of that. I remember when you were guys like guys, I'm eating rabbit food and like this diet is tough, and but I do think it actually really impacted how well you recovered. Now, Jesse, I'm going to go before you go. Not not because this is necessarily my position, but it's slightly controversial, and I want to throw it out there. Like, what's more important, diet or exercise? I think I think diet is uncontrovertibly the answer. However, I think when it comes to being on the court, there's a chance that exercise may be more important. And I'm going to use the use case of Tim and Louie. And I've already talked to them and gotten their permission to say this. Both of them don't have the best diets in the world. Louis crushes 4 or 5 crumble cookies a week. It's kind of an inside joke in our group now. He loves those things.
He has a
Uh,
spreadsheet with the top 10 ranked from everyone he's ever tried from across the country. The guy loves him, and I
yeah,
love the spreadsheet. Great dedication to the game, I'll tell you.
yeah, and he's seriously, and he's a sweet tooth. He loves his desserts, and Tim regularly brings like a 20 ounce like big gulp Dr Pepper or not. What's he do? He drinks Coke Zero, I think is what he drinks every morning to as his hydration for 5
It's
a.m. play.
44 ounces. It's double and some of 20 ounces. It's 44 ounces minimum.
Yeah, see, I don't drink this stuff, so I don't know how. It's like it's the big thing. And he drinks Coke as his hydration in the morning, and we laugh about it. And he goes, "It gives me superpowers." It's like Tim and Louie are the best dudes in our group,
Yep.
and routinely kick our butt. And their diets, like compared to Jesse and Stolp, it's like it's not even close in terms of intentionality, and yet they're so good. And so I don't even like. I think they would be even better if they cared about their diets, even better if they were more diligent. But I do see, and I'm sure that there are people listening who have the people in their group who aren't diligent with their diet, don't necessarily make the best choices, and still crush at pickleball. So I don't see it being a 1-to-1 that if you eat a crumble cookie, that all of a sudden you can't make a drop shot.
Hmm.
But they are both so active. They're playing multiple times a week. Louis plays multiple sports. Tim has been super active his entire life. And I see that them maintaining their physical structure, staying in shape, just constantly moving, not living a sedentary lifestyle at all, has applied to them still being able to play at the highest level. Now, are they going to find their ceilings doing that? I don't think so. But in terms of this discussion, for normal pickleballers, I'm leaning towards movement, not living a sedentary lifestyle is more important than the diet. Jesse, tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, if you're extremely active, you can get away with a lot. When I used to be a long distance runner, I was running 60 to 70 miles a week, and I could pretty much just eat anything and it would just burn off. But at some point, it's hard to sustain that quantity of exercise because as you age, you're more prone to injury. And as soon as I stopped running, I gained 30 or 40 pounds because I had developed these bad dietary habits that had been basically masked by the enormous amount of exercise I was doing. And then 4 years ago, I took up pickleball, and I was playing lots of pickleball, and I was exercising all the time, going to the gym. And I was overweight, and I was pre-diabetic. And then about a year and a half ago, I started seeing a health coach who I'm going to list his contact information in the description below, so anybody who's interested can contact him. But he changed the way that I eat, and he changed the type of drinks that I drink during and after pickleball, and I'm no longer pre-diabetic, and my weight has come down, and I feel much better, and I think I'm faster on the court as well. So for me, it really was fixing the diet. And I just want to add that everything we say in this episode is just based on our own personal experience. None of us is a medical doctor. We're just talking about what works for us. But obviously, if you want medical advice, go see a medical professional.
Yeah.
Great chime in there, and I wanted to make sure we said that too. This is three of the bros talking about stuff that we've done in the past. I wanted to bring up something, Ian, that you talked about with Louie and Tim, because we did talk to Tim before this podcast, and knowing he wasn't going to be able to make it, he still had his controversial pushbacks on some of this, and one of them was, what's my motivation? As you know, we've identified him as the best. He knows he and Louie are at the top of the group. He's like, I'm at the top now. Like, why should I even, why should I eat better and do exercise off the court? Like, what's the point? I'm still getting better. And he is, you know, I'm still running circles around 20-year-olds, which he is. And so he's like, what's the point? Like, his argument is that changing things for him wouldn't be beneficial. And like, I stopped. I don't know if you guys remember this conversation through Marco Polo this week, but I just, like, what I was doing, stopped in my tracks, and I was like, Tim and Pickle Bros, that is the worst take of the year. That's like me saying lobs that a successful lob is only on a winner, and that was calling myself out, but I still believe that. So Tim's allowed to believe whatever he wants. Like, I don't care. However, like, you're telling me that if you do not eat and exercise, like, you couldn't be a better version of your pickleball self. And I'm like, let's start to think about it, and let's work backwards from injury prevention. So you're playing longer, you know, recovery. You're able to jump back on that court with the same high level play every day, day in, day out. You're sleeping better. Your power on your strokes are better from your ground game or your volleys or whatever, because you're stronger. You know, all these little things are you freaking kidding me, dude? Like, you would be that but better. And he's just like, well, I'm already good. I'm already, and obviously he's not here to defend himself. That's why it's a little fun for me to poke at him like this, because he didn't say it like that. But he would be
insane.
The best. Insane, exactly. And so that's what I wanted to say is, like, just because you're good now doesn't mean you can't be better later, because there's exceptions to the rule. But like, I think of Marshawn Lynch from the NFL or Dwight Howard from the NBA. Marshawn Lynch was known for having a candy diet. His nickname was Skittles. And what he ate Skittles, and I think he took a shot of Hennessy before every game.
No way.
To play football. Yes, and he was the best running back in the league for a number of years. And then Dwight Howard, the same thing. The guy, or maybe it was DJ Metcalf. Anyways, these high-level professionals just consume junk food, but they're burning 70,000 calories, obviously not that, a day, by just being so active and working out and all these things. So people hear that, oh, I can be like Marshawn Lynch and eat Skittles. It's like,
well, and I don't want to cut you off because you're flowing so good, but LeBron James reportedly spends $1 million a year on his body and his diet, and he is already a freak athlete.
Yeah.
This is why he's been at the top for so long. He does what he needs to do.
And just to round out my thoughts, like, you take Crumble cookies or Coke Zero out of the equation for those guys, it could, you know, disclaimer, asterisk, make them better on the court. And that's just what I wanted to say is Tim's argument.
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered to bring it in, because we had good laughs when he said that. He's like, why should I care? I'm already beating you guys. We're like, yeah, Tim, that's a correct assessment of the current situation. Like, Tim, like, if Tim lost 15, 20 pounds and got in the gym, in the weight room, I mean, the dude could go a lot further in duper terms than he is now, I think. And the same thing with Louie. Like, both of them are already crushing it, but with bad habits. So and part of me is just like giddy excited to see what they could achieve if they had Jesse level discipline. And I want to add this in order, like, Jesse, you're so dedicated to your diet and being precise and the regimen you have. Like, it's really admirable. Like, I honestly am shocked at how adherent you are to your dietary schedule. And then the final thing before I want to read this Facebook post we found on this topic, Tim's take about not needing to work out or eat good is only the second worst take of the year. The worst take of the year is Stolp with the lob.
For sure.
Successful.
No question about it.
Whatever. Unlobbable since frickin' 1984, bud. Never hit me.
Did you guys read the comments? People were loving it. They were loving it so much, and most of our listeners do think you're delusional, Stolp. So let me read this real quick. So I believe it's Blake McMurray. At least that's who is tagged. So I believe this is Blake McMurray. She says, a little inspiration for the 50 plus crowd. If you want to improve your pickleball game, here's a great hack. By the way, this is Facebook. Improve your health. I'm in better shape at 52 than I've been my whole life, all for the love of the game. I decided 2 years ago at 3.5 duper, I wanted to advance from rec play to compete at higher levels. So I started getting healthy to improve my speed and stamina. And it worked. It reduced my recovery time so I don't have to rest every other day. We can do more to improve our game. You still need to drill, but imagine a healthier version of yourself taking the court this time next month, next year. You don't have to settle. You're not over the hill. You can set goals and dream big dreams. She said that yesterday, whenever this was posted, she won bronze in the 50 plus 5-0 bracket, and then the next day after that, the next day, she was going to go compete in senior pro mixed. Like the return on investment. Go ahead, Jesse. The
Yeah,
return on
that's so
investment is
so
crazy.
inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you look at somebody like Tim. Tim is in his mid 40s, I think, and I feel like, you know, if I were him, I'd be thinking about competing in senior pro when he turns 50, which is, you know, 4 or 5 years from now. And I think, you know, getting into the gym and fixing that diet would be extremely helpful
Yeah,
in
and by the
that
way,
regard.
there's pictures of Blake. She's stacked. Like she clearly put in the work. But to go in 2 years to go from 3-5 rec player
Amazing.
to senior pro is very impressive. So now again, I love again the quantifier that we are not health professionals. We are not educated in this. This is just what works for the pros. Excuse me. This will not necessarily work for you. I want to talk about what we actually eat. Stol, can you talk about that Mediterranean diet and kind of what you do to stay healthy? Just for people to get ideas, to know what, if they've never thought about this stuff,
Yeah.
glean some possible information from us.
Yeah, and I do really appreciate the disclaimers because I'm not a shining star for diet. Like I do my best. I try to make conscious decisions when I have choices to be better, but I'm not a shining star. And I think that's kind of relevant for the mass or the you know the majority of us that we are not perfect. And I do make I have a sweet tooth myself, so I resonate with that. But yeah, I do try and stick to what's simple, and Mediterranean diet for me is simple: whole grains, lean meats, vegetables. Like just make sure your plate has those on it. For me, that works. And when I'm talking about lean meats, I'm talking chicken, turkey. I rarely eat red meat. I love red meat, but I rarely eat it. And I know it's a different story for Ian and Jesse, because these were just these came out of doctors' mouths that I trust, and I lived into that. And I started to see results. I leaned out. My energy levels were higher, but I stay away from things that are processed, sugary stuff like that. All the things that you don't understand on labels is really a good indicator to stay away from. If you can read and understand what's on your label, it's probably there's a better shot that it's good for you. Well, better for you. I also live in a household that's gluten free. I have two celiacs in my family, in my inner circle. So we have no gluten in our house. I am not gluten free. You know, I can handle gluten, and I miss several components of bread and other great glutinous
Pizza.
food items. Gosh, pizza, right? So like label reading is has been a big part of our life anyways, just to make sure that there's no cross contaminants and this and that, so that my kids and my wife are safe here. But for me, it's keep it simple. Make sure you have uh, a hearty amount of vegetables mixed in with some lean meats and a whole grain, and do that on repeat for as much as possible. That doesn't mean you can't have a dessert here and there. You can't have a burger here and there, but it's all within moderation. And for me, my energy levels felt good. I feel like I can bring the same passionate energy to everything I do, and I attribute it to at least making the choices to eat healthy.
Awesome. Awesome. Jesse, you're another guy who has, I mean, I'm probably the more middle road between you two guys where I'm not super strict in what I eat. I just know the patterns I eat to be healthy. But Jesse, your diet's very unique. So why don't you go ahead and dive into that?
I'm probably about 90% carnivore, so meat and eggs, um, and then also like chicken and seafood, but like animal-based products. Uh, that's the approach I started when I started working with this health coach, Dr. Jarouge. You can find his contact information below. But I went to him and I said, I'm always hungry at night. I start snacking, and he's like, well, you're not eating enough. I'm like, you're not eating enough like protein during the day. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I had a pound of beef and 3 eggs, and he says, you're an active guy. You should eat 2 pounds of beef and like 6 eggs, and then you won't be as hungry at night. So I'm not completely carnivore. I will have a sweet potato from time to time. I have berries pretty regularly. I like cottage cheese in the evening. But that's the core of my diet.
And you do a lot of salt and butter too, right?
I do. I eat butter like right off the stick, which people think is really weird, but I do that sometimes. And I eat salt, like just like salt. Like I put it in my hand and actually like eat the salt. And if you see me playing pickleball and drinking, it's usually salt water.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't have any sugar in there or sugar like substances, and everything I eat is not processed, right? So it's like you said, simple ingredients like sweet potato, eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no extra stuff in there.
I have to say, playing in that tournament with Jesse, which we performed particularly well on that day. In between matches, this was a long thing. He has a cooler, and you can imagine Jesse's diet. Like he's really strict on how he's gonna fuel himself before upcoming matches. The dude was sitting on the bench in the shade, chomping down a stick of butter, and I was like, I was like, that's my partner. I was like, it's like, you guys want to know what my partner's up to? Look at this guy. He's just chomping on a stick of butter. It was the most unique thing I've seen to fuel yourself, but it works. It worked for him at least that day. So that was a call out I had to mention.
And I love that. And Jesse, you and I, because of my health stuff, have had long conversations about diet and what I should be doing. And I'm like sort of normal person and sort of carnivore. And what I mean to say is, when you told me, you're like, Ian, you need to up how many eggs you're eating. I'm like, okay, I'll eat 6 eggs in the morning with a healthy portion of butter in the pan,
Mhm.
and I can go for like 6 hours without wanting to eat anything. Like it's incredible how filling it is. And I normally try and do a 16-hour fast. So I'll come off my 16-hour fast, eat 6 eggs, and then not need to eat till like the mid afternoon. So high protein is what I do. My wife is a fantastic cook. Like guys, single guys out there, find your woman who can cook, because one will make you happy and two will make you fat. Because I eat, my problem is not with healthy food. I eat very healthy. I don't drink a lot of soda. I have a savory tooth, not a sweet tooth. So ice cream and crumble cookies, they don't even tempt me. But if you get chips and salsa on the table, it's like that'll be a problem for me. My problem is portion control. I grew up as a wrestler and did that all through my formative years, from sixth grade till I graduated high school. And I think I've talked about this, decided not to go into college. So a lot of our longtime listeners will know from the Pickle Bros origin stories. But a big component of wrestling is cutting weight, and that's you shred down, lose all this weight, lose water weight, weigh in, and then gorge yourself, eat a lot of food, drink a lot, go compete all day long. You got to make weight next week. It's really unhealthy practices. I regret some of my intensity over it. I have some nephews. My brother has some sons, and they're going to wrestle. They're under 3 years old, both of them. But Zay and I have talked. We're not going to let them cut weight. We're going to make them eat a lot and lift a lot. They're going to lift themselves into a weight class. A slight aside, as a wrestling nerd, David Taylor, one of the most storied USA athletes of all time now in wrestling, 4-time NCAA finalist, 3-time second place finisher, 1-time champion. Just you get in the finals every time and you lose. He's won multiple world titles, Olympic titles, has one of the best rivalries with a guy from Iran. He said he quit cutting weight. He lifted and bulked himself up into a weight class. And because you're working out so much anyway, you're shredded down. But he was strong, he was full, he was sustained. Kyle Dake ended up doing the same thing, I believe. And so there's now this shift in paradigm in the wrestling world, at least. Don't cut weight and thin yourself down. Just be a healthy version and get healthy. So all I'd say is my formative years was the old school thinking, and my wife thinks I have some unhealthy relationship with food, which I'm comfortable saying here. I probably do. I will eat until I am painfully full because that's what I did growing up, right? It's like you're starving for a week, you make weight, and then you have to eat before you go compete. And so you eat as much as you can. So I can crush five, like a large pizza, no problem. So one of my new goals, knowing that we were going to do this podcast, and I'm going to have our listeners and all Pickle Bros hold me accountable, I can lose 20 pounds. I'm walking around at just over 200 pounds, and I know I don't look fat, but I got a little soft around me, and my knees hurt a little bit, my Achilles hurts a little bit. But this is another reason for people to get healthy. Like even if you're not feeling like your on court is being affected by your diet, I know I can move faster, jump higher with my earnings, right? Like just be better if I didn't have this 20-pound vest on my body that I was carrying around. So I'm going to lose some weight just on portion control, because if I eat the way I eat and just don't be a glutton, then I should be able to lose a lot of weight here over the next couple months. But that's kind of how I eat. So I'm a healthy guy. I just eat a lot of food, and that's my biggest problem. Now, another interesting tangent about what we eat is how do you eat during pickleball tournaments? Now, I'll start this one off because for wrestling, it was very, you've got your bananas and your proteins and your hydration. Like you couldn't eat stuff that would sit. You had to eat stuff that your body could assimilate quickly, because you're going to have to go start wrestling just a couple hours from when you weigh in. I eat basically only protein on tournament days, and I got that from Jesse, and I've had having really good performances doing that. I only eat like cans of tuna or cans of fish or like pork rinds, which I thought were disgusting, but actually they're amazing. I'll either eat all protein and nothing else, or I'll play fasted, which I did yesterday and played great. After a couple hours, I start to fatigue, not having any energy. So it's good for 2 hours. I play great. I should probably eat something after that. I'm still trying to figure out my own, like, even for our listeners, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me in my tournaments. I don't have this locked down. I'm still experimenting with different things. But I'm very high protein, or completely fasted on game day. Like Jesse, how do you eat on the game days? Stolp already said sticks of butter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not purely eating protein. I'm pretty sure at that tournament Stolp I was also eating some burgers, but
Yeah.
I seem to remember a potato was in there too. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I will be a little more self-indulgent and a little less disciplined when it comes to tournament, because you only have a finite amount of mental energy, and you want that to be devoted to your play. So I have eaten, for example, a Cliff Bar from time to time. I don't think that's highly processed. It's not really the sort of thing I usually eat, but sometimes if you're out of burgers and eggs, or you just can't stomach another burger, but you need some energy before that gold medal match, yeah, you just pop some carbs, gives you that quick energy burst. So I actually am a little more relaxed when it comes to tournament day.
Ian, interesting take from you about these lives of extremes that you live with your tournament days. Like you said heavy protein, all in with this type of diet, and then you said fasting. That kind of threw me for a loop, to be honest, because those are two opposite ends of the spectrum that you're putting your body through, and I'd be interested to see what it looks like if you meet in the middle.
Well, can I answer real quick why I like
Please.
fasted?
Yeah.
Because when I was wrestling, you're working out, most of your activity is done in a fasted state of some kind. I can't compete when I'm feel like I'm heavy, like I've got stuff in me weighing me down. And that I think that is, and I know like football guys from high school who played football, they would eat so much and then go play football and they feel great. If I did that, I'd probably throw up on the court. Like there's something about my formative years training me. I compete or like to compete better when I'm empty or nearly empty. And your body assimilates like 98% of protein of animal products that you intake. So when I'm doing protein, I still have that light feeling, right? Like I'm getting calories and energy, but it's still not heavy.
Hmm.
So for me, it's about just feeling like there's nothing in my stomach because that's what I'm used to.
So why the other end of the spectrum? Why did you go all protein one time or whatever?
Because I discovered through conversations with Jesse that the human body will, like, if you eat a steak, your body will literally assimilate 98-ish% of that. And i.e., you will excrete only about 2% of it. So a lot of these guys, like, who's that guy? Sean Baker. He's that rower guy, Jesse, you and I really like. He is literally nothing but steak and salt and butter. Like, I mean, he's like, yeah, I go to the bathroom every 2 or 3 days just because his body assimilates so much of what he's eating that he doesn't need to excrete anything. So I took that principle and applied it to myself, knowing how I feel comfortable,
Gotcha.
knowing
Okay.
my body will assimilate it. I'm not carrying around
I
stuff
see.
in me.
All right. Well, and here's my take on tournament food prep is I would argue it starts the week prior to the tournament. Like we're so focused on game day and what you do, and that was the question. How do you fuel on tournament day? But I would argue leading up to it, those 7 days of eating very, very well, understanding what you're putting into your body is going to produce, or you're going to have the outcome you want on game day. So that's number one. And then number two, so personal story, like every day or every time I would pitch. So I've done it all from starting to long relief to closing. If you're a long reliever, closer, bullpen guy, you don't know when your number is going to get called and you have to be ready. So you kind of have to prepare every day. As a starter, you have 5 days to say, hey, my day is going to be on Saturday. I have 5 days to prepare and lean into that. Well, on those starter days in pro ball, like I wouldn't sleep well because I'd have nervousness, and I'd be thinking about my opponents and how to pitch these players. And then the day of, like, I wouldn't eat. I'd force myself to, but because of some of the anxiety of that stuff, I've understood that carbs and protein, I'd eat a healthy breakfast and then supplement with throughout the day with hydration. So when it comes to tournament days in pickleball, like I'm nervous at the beginning, but I'll force myself to eat eggs, a high protein breakfast, and with carbs. And then when the tournament starts, I'll supplement with hydration, electrolytes, and such like that. And then some of these bar type things as well. Nothing crazy with like meats and some of these things you all are talking about. I do keep it simple, knowing my body is carb dependent and electrolyte dependent. Hydration is really the key for me on game day.
Yeah, really need to focus on your electrolytes too. Like that's something a lot of people miss. Your potassiums, your sodiums, your magnesiums, like whether it's liquid IV or element or any of these, all kinds of
Salt. Jesse just eats salt.
Yeah, I steer clear. Sorry, we're probably going to lose potential sponsorships, but I
right.
steer clear of 98% of those electrolyte drinks because they have sugar or artificial sweeteners in them. LMNT does make one unflavored that I would use, but I just use salt and sometimes I'll put in some magnesium as well, and it's cheap and it works just fine.
So, and I use, since my wife is an ultra marathoner, she has a running group similar to our pickleball group, and they have fine tooth comb different products and electrolyte supplements. And so she gets these bags of, I can't remember the brand, but it is simple electrolytes, and it's no added this or that. And that's what I put in my water bottles on long days.
And this conversation has a wide scope of different directions it can go. Um, are there any final thoughts? Because I want I want our listeners to know this is like we're obviously professionals at this, and we're coming up on our time to get out of here. But there's a whole list of stuff we want to talk about, exercise and things you can do in the gym to improve. But we're going to probably do that for another podcast. So, are there any closing thoughts before I wrap us up? Because we just don't have time to go into the other stuff we want to do. Any closing thoughts from you guys? Because
I would just encourage everybody to if they know their diet is lacking, I would encourage them to get tested for prediabetes. Even if you're active, you may be if you're eating lots of processed food and lots of sugary stuff, you may be on that path towards type 2 diabetes. And if so, you really need to get your house in order.
yeah, completely going to second that. All I really want from this episode is people to start thinking diligently about the choices they're making. No three of us are bastions of perfect diet. We're not like fitness gurus, and we're not walking around at 5% body fat. But all three of us make intentional choices with purpose and effort that will apply. I mean, by the way, extrapolate beyond pickleball. I know we're talking about pickleball, but it's nice to be able to walk up and down your stairs without getting winded or without being in pain.
Especially at elevation, right? We live at 7,500 or 7,000 feet. It's tough.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much reason to care about this in your life. And since we all love pickleball, how cool would it be if when that drive comes at you and you're in transition zone and it hits the net and dribbles over, instead of having to just watch it bounce twice helplessly, you can actually get in there, do a split lunge, and lift that thing up, and then retreat back out of the kitchen line. Like, that's a good feeling when you get gets like that. And there are people who can get the net dribbles, but aren't doing it right now because they haven't positioned themselves with their off court behavior to allow themselves to do it on court. So
well said, Ian, and maybe I'll just round us out here. By the way, you said something I kind of laughed. I didn't know it was a joke. You're like, we are professionals, and then I kind of chuckled. I was like, no, not really. We just do what works for us, and I hope then Ian led into that great example of just imagine what it could be like if you make a little bit better choices off the court. And here's my closing statements from the Pickle Bros. I'll be like, think of the next time you're positioned with a choice. Do I take that extra dessert, or do I lay off, or do I drink that soda, or do I replace it with water? Think of the Pickle Bros as your virtual mom or dad here that says, make good choices. And then just think of us when you're staring in the face of temptation. If you just make better choices, or do just at least mentally try and make better choices, and then you replace a soda with a water. That's a simple first step. Or if you leave that extra dessert and just take a bite, that's the first step. Or if you replace the fast food meal that night with a prepared meal that has healthy ingredients, that's the first step. And I think any part of a health journey for your own personal self starts with small decisions that lead into long-term behaviors. We're talking about a lifestyle, folks. We're not talking about a silver bullet quick fix. What we're talking about is making one good choice to domino effect that into a lifelong series of great choices, so that you can stay on the court, stay active, stay healthy, engage into this sport that we all love so much. And it just starts by taking the smallest step of making good choices. So I hope anyone who listens today will go out and make those good choices.
Slope always hitting home run with the closers. Awesome, guys. Well, Pickle fam, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Pickle Bros podcast. Comment below what your diet is, ideas that you might have. Please share us around. Our viewership and our subscriber numbers are going up, which is really fun to see. As always, it's not why we're doing it, but it's a really neat ramification. So keep sharing us around. We love the support from you guys. Get on the court today. Go have some fun. Go exercise, and no Coke Zeros. So stay safe. We love you all. Stay out of the kitchen.